Well, I made my first guitars in high school, wood shop, just to solve I needed a guitar problem. That was my problem. And I went down and looked at guitars. They cost too much money, but I was good at making things, so I made a guitar.
You just made a guitar. I mean, you just made.
I can make things.
Yeah, so you've always been a handy guy.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
It just isn't. I'm sorry.
And how'd your first guitar go?
It was
a good guitar.
Yeah, it was a good guitar. I mean, it was it was crude, but it was a good guitar.
Do you still have it by any chance?
Yeah.
Really? And what'd you do? I mean, did you start selling them right away, or?
Well, after I graduated from high school, during that process, I built 3 guitars, and I found a little place out in Lemon Grove called the American Dream, and I started buying some supplies from them. And after I graduated from high school, I got a job, got a bench out there, and within a year, the owner decided to sell. It was a tiny little hippie shop. And so I met one of the guys that was working there, Kurt Listug, who's been my partner for 36 years. We got together, came up with a little bit of money, $3,000, paid him some money, took over his lease, and we were in business.
So how old were you when that happened?
19.
19 years old, starting your own business? Like, did you think that you would be doing that, having your own business at 19?
I knew I was going to make guitars, yeah, one
Right
way or
away.
the other. As soon as I was 16 and made my first guitar, I committed myself to doing that for the rest of my life.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And that happened fast.
Yeah.
You were doing it right away.
Yeah, exactly.
What are some of the hurdles you had to overcome early on?
Oh, making some money. We were totally, completely broke behind the 8 ball for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to buy our guitars. We didn't know how to make them. Just little things like that.
Yeah. Little things like being broke.
Yeah, we were totally broke.
How'd you guys keep going then? How'd you keep moving forward?
Well, we lived for free at home, and my folks had moved away. I lived with my sister. Kurt lived with his folks. We lived a low-budget life. We spent all our time working. We dug our way out. It took us 10, 12 years before we started making a little profit.
Really? So this certainly was not handed to you.
No.
So you could have worked for another guitar company, right?
The thought never crossed my mind. Never even thought about that. I didn't even know of any guitar companies. When I made guitars, I didn't know of the other guitar companies. It was I did it all in a bubble.
You said it took about 9, 12 years before you started to make some money. When did it pick up? What caused it to really launch forward?
Perseverance. There was no launch. It was stepwise. There was no launch. There was never a catapult. There was never a day that all of a sudden it started working. There was never that. It was just creeping forward step by step.
And
a lot of people are looking for that. What's that thing that made all the difference? There's no thing. It's all the things together, 10, 12, 20 things all together, getting better at all of them until finally we got a little bit ahead and then a little bit more ahead. We had to learn how to make guitars profitably. We had to learn how to be employers. We had to learn how to handle our finances. We had to learn how to sell, how to market, how to give customer service, how to plan, all of that.
When did you get this, what we just saw here in this factory, just this massive, beautiful operation? When did that come to be?
20 years ago, we moved into the building that you see next door. And 4, 5, 6 years later, which was 14, 15 years ago, we moved into this building. There's 5 or 6 more on the block, and then operation this big in Mexico as well, and an operation in Amsterdam where we distribute guitars, and now we're expanding into Africa, wood cutting and things like that. So, yeah, but we spent the first 12 years in a 1,500 square foot shop over in Lemon Grove, just like a little almost garage type shop, and then we moved into a 5,000, 6,000 square foot location in Santee in a business park. We were there 6, 7 years. We moved into here with 45 employees in a 25,000 square foot building. Now we're, 600 employees and hundreds of thousands of square feet.
And still growing.
Yeah, still growing all the time.
Why did you decide to keep headquarters here in Southern California?
Because we live here, and who would want to move from here? Do you?
No, I don't.
No? Okay, there you go.
Now, how's the recession hurt you guys? Or have there been ebbs and flows in your business for external reasons?
Every time we hit a recession, it's the best thing for our business, especially, because we gain market share there. In fact, the biggest guitar setback in 100 years happened right when that first 12 years. You know, we started our business in the biggest downturn in acoustic guitars that they'd seen in a century. But that made all of our competitors shrink, and it gave us our chance. So we ended up becoming the same size as 100-year-old competitors because they shrank. We didn't have to, you know, we were just a startup. So if you look at, you know, things that were really fortunate for us at the very beginning, one of them is we were doing a good job in a really bad market, and we would have never caught up with them. They were 100 times the size of us. But that bad market, I'm talking about when Saturday Night Fever and disco hit, it annihilated acoustic guitars, annihilated them off the face of the planet.
That's interesting. That's the reason for the recession, a cultural.
That wasn't an economic recession, it was a guitar recession. Now, 2009, we hit a economic recession here, and for about 7 or 8 months, it hit hard on us. But we always gain market share during a recession because we give better service to our dealers. We get in for more rather than out for less. And so we shot out of that recession, and now we're having the biggest months. Every month is another record month, every month. And so we're doing more business now than we've ever done. We got out of the doldrums of 2009 by November of 2009. We had to really tighten our belts and make some tough decisions, but we did it. And then we just grew like crazy after that.
What do you consider yourself? Are you a businessman? Are you a guitar player?
I'm not a player. I mean, I'm an average player. I'm a hobbyist player. I know how to make things, and I've learned how to turn that into a business.
So you're a builder.
I'm a builder.
Is that a word? You're a builder?
That's what I do. I build guitars, or I build whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And you turned that passion, or that skill that you have, into this.
Yeah.
What's your advice for other people who have a similar skill, or a skill?
Play through. If you want to turn it into a living, do it. But you're going to have to do a better job than other people. You're going to have to be willing to play through, and you've got to be smart along the way. You've got to figure out what works and what doesn't work. You have to be your own worst critic. If you're happy with what you're doing and you think you're doing a great job, then it's probably the beginning of some fall. You know, you really should look at the whole thing and go, you know, well, I'm satisfied with what I've got so far, but there's a lot more to get. You know, I think the worst scenario is someone who's doing mediocre work and thinks it's good. And whether you're self-employed, whether you're working for somebody, when you're doing mediocre work and you think it's good, how are you going to improve? You know, and the marketplace is a brutal critic. People vote with their wallets, and when you start out with something, you're unknown. You know, you've got to build a brand. But you've got to stay there long enough to be known. You can win by default. Now, I know people who have been in business as long as me, and their company's still small and still struggling, but they're there. You know, they've sort of won that part by default, but they haven't prospered because they haven't jettisoned their ideas and their activities that don't work and replaced them with the ones that do work. So I think that there's, you know, there's definitely creativity that has to take place in your thinking. What am I going to do tomorrow? How can I create a better way of looking at things? And it might not just be a better way of making something, which I'm always thinking about, but a better way of just doing business.